This episode is proudly supported by Westholme Australian Wagyu. Here's Stephen Sinclair from Jackson's on George.
In general, Westholme, I use several items on the menu from them. I always look to source products for their flavour. And with Westholme, I think they deliver that 100%. Australian Wagyu, in particular, Westholme is world class. Westholme is recognised for their quality all over the world. And then that's why, and when I tried it, and I absolutely love the flavour. This is, why I decided to put them on the menu.
Westholme believe that when nature leads, flavour follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
I think it's important for people to know, workers like me, aren't just here, to fill the gaps in the industry and just leave the country. And because we come here with big dreams and skills, the willingness to contribute. I bring my culture here and the diversity and the passion.
Hey everybody, it's Dani Valent here, and I am happy to be with you for an episode of Dirty Linen. This podcast, we've been going for 4 years, I reckon, and we love talking to people in all different areas of the food world. It's a privilege to give people a platform who perhaps haven't had one before, and I really honour everybody's stories. An issue that we've circled back to over and over again on Dirty Linen is workers who are in Australia on temporary visas. It was certainly, I think, part of the inspiration for this podcast was the situation during the early days of the pandemic when visa holders were not supported by the government, creating an instant situation of peril. It was a massive issue of social injustice, and I was really privileged to lend my voice to that issue and to give people who are students and other temporary workers a voice during those times that we would all rather forget. But the issue of foreign workers and particularly international students has come to the fore again recently. Numbers of international students have been cut dramatically. There is a real pressure on temporary workers to leave the country. And so often I feel like these conversations are just around statistics and figures and macroeconomic issues. And we don't hear enough from people who are impacted. These are real people with real lives in real situations. So today, as a small remedy for that, we are chatting to Dee Yürür. Dee is from Turkey. She can tell us more about her situation. But Dee, it is time to welcome you to Dirty Linen.
Hello. Hi, Dani. Thanks for having me first and foremost in this podcast and giving me a space for it.
Well, we've been back and forth for ages, and I'm really thrilled to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Dee. I'm from Turkey. So I've been in hospitality, for years, starting as a bartender, like every young hospo person, I reckon, back in Turkey. So in between the ages 18 to 21. And I was basically shaking cocktails in, the most popular bars down south in Turkey. So that's where I started. And then I did a complete 180 and entered to aviation. So working as a flight attendant for Turkish Airlines for 7 years. And then I was basically got promoted to a class Q, which is a very detailed business service in the air. And after that, now I'm in Australia. I studied Bachelor of Hospitality Management from Certificate 4, obviously from commercial cookery. And I've been a chef for the last 6 years in Melbourne.
Wow. And what's that experience been like for you? What kinds of things have you encountered along the way?
So the experience, actually, it's been up and down, as you may guess, because I came here just before COVID. It was 2018. I guess it was July. And so it's been a very wild ride. And I would say I fought for my fair share for the battles, for the last 6 years. I've done from cafes to, restaurants, pubs, casual fine dining. So because it was a career change for me, I had to kind of a speed up. So I worked in many different places and then
And I mean, we hear a lot about the position of students in hospitality businesses. There is a certain vulnerability when you're here on a visa. Did you find the employment conditions tricky, fair? Were you treated well?
You want me to be honest, yeah?
I do. Let's be honest.
So since I came here, like, you know, one of the reasons I came here because Australia kind of had this impact when I first came before the student visa, just to explore and see what's going on. Like, I fell in love with the city and the people. It was really weird for me that people actually smile at you on the streets. So Australia just stole my heart, and that was the reason I came here. But, you know, I've met with like amazing people along the way, but unfortunately, I've also had to deal with like a lot of like ugly side of the industry. There is a lot of like dodgy, like unethical practices going on, you know, behind the scenes. And especially when it comes to, you know, how workers are treated, and bullying is still a problem on this land, as well as like the unfair dismissal. Like basically you see something and you speak up, and the next thing like you're in trouble and they're handing you a letter saying that we don't need you anymore. So it doesn't matter if you're casual or full-time. So I had, you know, a bit of a fair share of that since I came here, which, you know, shocked me a lot because I'm not used to that. I've never seen an adult bullying to an adult in an industry like in hospo in Australia, like in my country, at all. So that was like a very like shocking thing for me. But, you know, I had to stand up for myself and for others more than I ever thought I would, because, you know, that's just me. Like, I do have this, I don't know, people call it fire in the belly. Like, I can't just shut up when I see something in front of my face. At least I promise myself that it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna be on my watch, because I've been there before, and it just takes a lot from your mental health.
Do you think, Dee, that the things that you witnessed or that you experienced were because you and some of your co-workers were from other places? Was there a certain vulnerability attached to your visa status?
I want to say no, but that was the case, unfortunately, because I've experienced a lot. People like automatically assume, because, you know, in hospitality, it's a fast-paced environment, a lot of turnovers, like big turnovers going on, and people just come and go. And it was a thing before COVID, like so many, you know, backpackers work in this industry and then do their job and just move on. So I think there's like a culture, like when you're from like somewhere else, you're a foreigner, they automatically assume that you don't know the law, you don't know anything, you're just like a, you know, this little Bambi lost in the forest. Like, so they, like some people, I think, try to exploit you a lot, thinking that you actually don't know anything. But like, not all of us come here not knowing anything, or you unfortunately probably learn like in the job that these things are still happening in here. So yeah, I think that is the issue in here. Like, I've never seen, you know, an Aussie just bullying an Aussie at all, unfortunately.
Wow. I mean, it's interesting, Dee, like you obviously, you know, highly educated, highly trained. You had a whole career before you started working in hospitality in Australia. Do you feel like perhaps you were better equipped than some other people around you to, as you say, like, you know, let this fire in the belly out?
Yeah, I would say I would more experience, maybe because of my age, because of like, you know, I've been doing this for now, like 14 years, like since I've known myself at an early age. Probably I was more equipped. I've seen people, unfortunately, just like not even saying anything, like just like suck it up and just do their job, because I've been told like a couple of times, just, you know, just ignore it. Like, you know, you do your job. At the end of the day, it's not your business. But like, it doesn't end there. Like, unfortunately, if I see like an apprentice like getting bullied or being yelled at, when there are like many ways, like as an adult, you have an option, right? That's what I believe. Like, you have like 100 different ways to communicate with the person just like standing in front of you, but you choose like the worst way to communicate. That's on you. Like, maybe you should just, you know, get some lessons, or like get like a leadership lessons just to evolve yourself a bit more, because the person doesn't deserve that. Like, they go home and they just like overthink about the situation, like what I've done wrong, like what did I do wrong, when it's not actually about them. Like, it's your communication style, just like letting people down.
So, I mean, a lot of this, you know, as you're sort of explaining to us, has to do with the uncertain status people have here when they're on a visa. Can you talk to us a bit about what it's like, you know, apart from the workplace situation, just the visa situation? What is it like, all that sort of admin and uncertainty?
Oh boy, where should I start? So as you may know, like, I'm on my graduate visa, which is like 485, which is like ending, you know, in 18 days to be exact. And like, for me, like, coming from a really, you know, hospital background, I knew what I need to do, and then I'm more like proactive, like in the ways that I should be taking care of my own status, like, first, and then just go seek for like extra information and stuff. And then I've done everything early as possible, and then tracking my own visa, like, and then I've been looking for a sponsorship on the side, because I know it's very competitive, like, to apply for 189, 190, which is like a government skilled sponsorship. And so I've been waiting for that to last September, but also I've been having some backup, you know, plans for it. Like, for example, I've been looking for a sponsorship for the last 4 months, but like, currently I do have an like very interesting Excel sheet the jobs that I applied for the last 4 months, which is like sitting at the number of 178 job. And I couldn't find any sponsorship. So that's been like creating a lot of stress lately. And, you know, I should be still, you know, being on a graduate visa, I should be still working towards my career and not worry about any of this. But like, constant worrying for the last 6 months was just like, you know, keeping my mind busy in the wrong way like possible. And then, you know, like, going back to the topic, like, I'm searching for a sponsorship as well, but like, also being cautious about where do I work and what to do, because when you're looking for a sponsorship, like, it doesn't end there, like, and you have to, you know, stick with them for at least 2 years. The government rules are changing like once or twice every year. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to follow all the rules. You have to update yourself. But like I said, it doesn't end there, because you have to also make sure that you find someone that will back you up and not gonna exploit you in this, because, you know, you're stuck with them for 2 years. I would rather to be seen as an asset, and someone doesn't have to train me for 2 years instead of, you know, just having a high turnover and just keep training people, losing money. But like, unfortunately, no one sees that as an asset. They see it as a burden, because either they don't know how to sponsor people or they don't know the cost. It is like a lot of things to do from the employer side, you know, to go through all this process, and you have to declare like a profit and stuff, like all the other very like detailed documents to the government. And since the COVID, like, let's be honest, they don't want to do it, because not specifically they're hiding something from the government, but like, that's not the way they want to go, because they're already recovering from the COVID already. Like, we're not there yet. So obviously they don't want to spend another $6,500 for a person possibly they don't even know about.
So, Dee, I guess, you know, there's so many ways we could go with this conversation. I can hear listening to you, you know, you're in all these, you know, you know about the 485 and the 190 and all the, there are all these visa numbers, and some people listening to this will know exactly what you're talking about, and other people will just be able to feel the sort of the admin burden, the confusion, the sort of mess of it all. one thing that I think is important to point out, as you did, but people might not have grasped it, it's like if you do get a sponsorship, which means that you would be able to stay in Australia and you would be on a path towards permanent residency, which means you could stay here for as long as you want. When you do have that sponsorship, you're tied to that employer. So it means that you are, if they're not a good employer, then you are more vulnerable to, to situations of abuse or unfairness because, that employer is your ticket to staying in Australia. So it is a really, it is a part of the system that can work really well, but it can also work really badly. But I think, what we can hear as you tell your story is just the stress and the uncertainty and the fact that, the years are ticking by. You're trying to build a career, but it's a really hard circumstance to do that. I suppose, one big question is, why are you putting yourself through this? Like, why do you want to stay in Australia, and what would it be like for you to go back to Turkey?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's like in everyone's mind, like, why did you come here and why do you want to stay here? But what's special in here? Like, honestly, like, first and foremost, I came here like everyone else for a fresh start. And like, obviously for like the new opportunities, because the Australia is very well known, like the land of opportunities, like, one might say. But like, there's this perception of Australia, like if you work hard, you can build a life here. Like, I wanted to settle down in a country where hospitality, for me, is constantly evolving comparing to Europe, because in Europe, it's all done. Like, it's very old culture. It's like they have this style. It's very evolved. But like in Australia, it's like a playground. Like, you can help the industry just moving forward with a different background, which kind of really, attract me in here. Plus, like, I needed personally, I needed a break from a constant survival mode back in my home. Like, honestly, saw this as a chance to create something better for myself and then hopefully like for my future kids. But, it's been a lot harder than I imagined and everything else. But also, like, I do, like, since I've been here, it's been 6 years, right? Like, the more I get to know the industry and the people and seeing all the good stuff that it has to offer, beside of all the ugly stuff, let's put that all aside and away, like, there is hope, and I would love to work on this and give my all to, just to work with the right people and the right mindset and everything else. But going back to Turkey, in my mind, it's very hard pill to swallow. Firstly, because, I left there 6 years ago. Yeah, I did go there for vacation and stuff, but like, I haven't been living there constantly for the last 6 years. And Turkey is like a rapidly changing country, economical wise, and all the political messes going on in there. Like, going back there, it will be like going backwards for me and like starting all over this, all over again. And like, in respect, I worked too hard to build something here. I came with the hopes and then dreams and like with the skill set that the country, like, I assumed Australia needed. And then I was ready to supply, but also I do have a partner here. I do care a lot and I'm happy, like, finally. And I feel like I can contribute here more than, going back to Turkey with my skill set, because I'm not sure what's going on over there anymore. And then, yeah.
Yeah. So, and, I guess we can hear from you how you've invested in Australia over the past 6 years. You've learnt how to work in Australia. You've contributed your skills to Australian workplaces. And, yeah, you've built a life here. I suppose the other big question is, we hear about the housing crisis. We hear about, the mess that higher education is in, and the complexity of the visa situation and I don't know, downward pressure on immigration numbers. Like, why, given all of that, should Australia want you to stay?
That's a nice question. First thing, foremost, I don't think Australia wants us to stay, but in general, like from the, the skilled immigration wise, because like, in my opinion, I've never seen a country, going to a national TV and then just blaming the immigrants for a housing problem when it's been, Australia is very well known, like migrating people, skilled people, and then for years and years, like America and Canada. But I don't know why it's the issue now with the housing problems. And I believe that we are not the only problem causing the houses, the house crisis in here. Like, for example, the point system should be different. Like, the point system is not very realistic. Like, they have the control to, who they invite people in which occupation and stuff like that. So
yeah, I guess what I mean, I can hear what you're saying. Like these are complex situations, complex issues that have been built up over many, many years, and to have a scapegoat is too simplistic. That's it just demonizes a certain section of the population that, was welcomed here for all kinds of reasons, for your skills also, but also for the money that you put into higher education, which propped up the institutions for local students. So I think, it's it makes me really upset when politicians find simple targets for problems that, have been decades in the making and have, complex causes and complex solutions. So you mentioned the point system, Dee, and I think, some people wouldn't really understand what you're talking about, but maybe do you want to explain a little bit about what the point system is?
Sure. The point system in Australia is, like bunch of rules and just to like for skilled immigration, and there are like criteria such as your age gives you like being in a certain age gives you like 5 points or 10 points, or your background in the occupation. If you've done, for example, I'm a chef, if I've done chef work back in Turkey in between up to 3 years or 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, that gives you a certain point. And then the work that I've been doing in Australia by the years, that gives me a certain point. For example, another criteria, if I'm single or not, that gives me a certain point. So all that calculation of these points give me a result. And that is how you get invitation, like independently from the government, which is a subclass of 189 called skilled independent visa, or subclass 190 skilled nominated visa. So you're basically being nominated by the government. So you're not tied to a certain employer. You just have to keep doing the job in the, designated state. So
yeah, it's so cold, isn't it? I mean, it's just, it's. I get that there has to be a system, and you can't assess everybody, on their own individual. I don't know. You can't assess everybody as an individual, but it does just feel such a cold way to change the course of a person's life. Dee, we've heard a lot about why you want to stay here, but I'd love to chat to you a bit about food, because that's at the heart of it, really. Tell me about food. Like, why do you love cooking? What do you want to express when you're in the kitchen?
So why do I love cooking? That's a really nice question. Like, I've been always drawn to hospitality since the young age, like doing all different kind of stuff. Like, I tried to get out of the hospitality, but it didn't work out for me. So I was just drawn right back into the hospitality. And then this time it was like being a chef. The thing that I love is the constant creativity, and then I would say the fast pace. Some people just don't like it, but the type of brain I have, I love that dopamine release when I just get through a busy day with my team that I do get along, and then we're like, yes, we did it. And then there's some certain achievement in that, when you finish the day and have a I don't know, we used to do that, like having a knockoff beer, and then, you know, it was a great day. And then I do love that. And the way that it makes, you know, someone's day, like just with a great food. Like, it's not about the food and the drinks. Also for me, like coming from a background of like being Turkish, like it's always taught to us, like it's about the connection. Like you can bring people together, like you share with your food with your neighbor, you bring the family just like shows up at your home, and then you just like quickly do something, and it's just like, you know, it's about the warm plate on the table and gathering people and sharing beautiful moments. So this is not so different than that for me. And, you know, that's when you're passionate about something, it also like makes it worth fighting for. So I think that's why I'm so like outspoken and just like, you know, I gotta do this, like with the background of working in business class in aviation as well. Like I'm still always like pushing to give people the best experience possible. So for me, hospitality is all about the experience. It's not only the food that you share or the drinks like after work. It's like the whole experience that you actually provide for people. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you see them smiling and just saying thank you just when they're leaving the restaurant, I think that's the most worth for me.
Yeah, beautiful, Dee. Well, you know, you got 18 days. I hope somebody comes forward, or you can find somebody who puts you on that track to permanent residency. I think you'd be a real asset to Australia permanently. And not that it's for me to say, like you're fighting you're on your own journey, and I fully respect all the energy that you're putting into it. Dee, do you have any final words for us?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, the people in hospitality, you know, come here with big dreams, but the system unfortunately feels like it's built to break you down. I think it's important for people to know, like workers like me, like aren't just here, like, you know, to fill the gaps in the industry and just leave the country. And like, because we come here with like big dreams and skills, you know, the willingness to contribute. I bring my culture here and the diversity and the passion. And, you know, and when you're like constantly fighting for the place, like it's really hard to stay motivated as well. I think we need a system, you know, that values that contribution, that makes it easy for people to stay and grow, and, you know, to be, you know, better together, to move together. Like it's not easy when you feel like the decks feels stacked against you. And I do really believe that the government needs to do better, like with the point system and everything else, even with the sponsorship. Like it can be so much easier for employers to get through this and then sponsor someone they want.
Yeah, very well said, Dee. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. It's really been a pleasure and an honour to have you on Dirty Linen. Stay in touch. I want to know how this story plays out.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.